It's 7:11 and we'll call this Talent City Council regular meeting of August 5th to order. Roll call, please.
Councilor Barry Miller,
Here.
Councilor Martin,
Here.
Councilor Greider,
Here.
Councilor Medina,
Here.
Councilor Collet,
Here.
and Councilor Penalmer is absent. Mayor Ayers Flood.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda or council refusal? I will say for the abundance of caution that I am a hired staff member of the Talent Business Alliance. And just prior to the special session of July 22nd, our board convened a meeting in advocacy of local business needs on item number 8. For the record, item number 8, A and B. And at the direction of the board, we provided for a meeting of local business to discuss this item. And the board president provided a letter to the council as a result of that meeting. So I am declaring a potential conflict of interest out of an abundance of caution, but I am confident that I can deliberate on this item with objectivity. Anybody else? Councilor Perry Miller?
Thank you, Mayor. I am also declaring a very, very potential conflict of interest for the same reason that I work for the Talent Business Alliance, and our board has taken an active role in providing information to the business community about item 8A and 8B.
Out of a super duper duper abundance of caution. My sister works for TBA, but she's not on the board. And I find her work boring, she finds my work boring, so I believe that I can participate with objectivity, but I just want to be transparent.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other, okay?
Mayor,
Alex?
2 agenda item requests. Please strike 6B. Chief Snook is participating virtually. And 7D, we have some corrections to make to those minutes.
All right, I just want to make sure I understood you. You want me to strike 6B
As in boy. And 7D as in dog.
and
Please.
strike 7D as in dog?
Yes, please.
Okay. So those, the budget committee minutes are being withdrawn for correction. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is correct.
Okay. Anything else? All right. Item number 3 on the agenda is recognitions, proclamations, and community announcements. Steph?
I think the only community announcement that I want to make tonight is to make sure that folks are aware that we have moved to extreme fire danger, and that means no cutting of dried grass.
Can I, this comes up every year. Expand on what no cutting of dry grass actually means. It's more than just not using your lawnmower, correct?
Correct. It would exclude weed whacking as well. And so a watered lawn can be mowed, but a dried lawn in any hours of the day during extreme fire danger should not be mowed. And the other additional changes under extreme fire danger are no use of chainsaws and no use of welding equipment outdoor or grinding or metal grinding in the outdoors.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. That's really helpful. Any other community? Are we good?
I think we're good.
Keep going?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 4 is public testimony. Has staff received any speaker requests? Any public testimony is limited to But how many requests I have.
So you, does the mayor have the request for the public hearing or the mayor?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, this would be request for items not on the agenda, and this would, just for everybody in the room, if you're wanting to speak regarding the CPA 2026-001, that time will come later.
Right. Yeah.
And I believe the same story for item, an item.
I'm just looking for speaker requests for everything but the public hearing. Right? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna call these in the order that I've gotten them. I've received them. I'll ask you to please come forward to the lectern. Can we pull the lectern out, Alex? I'll ask you to please come forward to the lectern and state your name and your city of residence for the record. And the first name I have is Tiana Boroff Smith. Tiana Boroff Smith, are you in the room?
She's coming to the other room, Mayor.
That's great. Hi, Tiana. Please step up to the lectern and state your name and your city of residence for the record.
Tiana Boroff Smith, and my city of residence is Medford.
Very good.
So I am here to just get clarity. I didn't know this was the word, sorry, it's repeating. On the 18th. So regarding the public safety surcharge.
Sounds good. Can somebody start a timer for 3 minutes? And
So really what I'm looking for is clarity on a couple points. So one is how often and who we begin evaluating trip generation. So the trip generation model was based on, another city that had done that and it worked. But my concern is how often is that being evaluated? And the increase for my business that's proposed is over. That is as concerning, but if you can do that every single year, that's very, very concerning. So I want to understand exactly how often for generation and how often that's going to be reevaluated and what percent that can increase quarterly or yearly. Those are kind of my main questions right now. That's all.
so for everybody as well, during public testimony, we don't take questions and we don't provide feedback. However, if there's a question that the council wishes to discuss, we take it up at the other point at our agenda. But if you do have questions on an item of agenda, we won't answer it in place, but I'm sure that the city manager, if he's got some information in his staff report to answer questions, it'll come up at that point as
Okay.
well.
So before I go, because I know you guys are going to be voting on it, so I guess I'll use my time here. I think that's something very important to take into consideration. So I'm sure maybe you know the answer to those questions. But if this is going to take place for businesses, not all of the businesses and talent, actually, I would say the majority of the businesses and talent are small businesses. So not only do many of us have very high overhead and really just trying to make it, it's very important that if this model because I personally know that they're concerned about, like I said, on the surcharge, like, can you just do that whenever you want on it?
Thank you. Next person is Robert Luvara. Did I get that right?
Is it possible to close the door as I hear my own voice echo?
If you can state your name and your city of residence for the record,
Robert,
please.
Thank you, Alex.
This is why the rate increases, why, occasion to raise, what is the money gonna be used for? I know you're not gonna answer, but too bad, because that's what I'm talking about. But how does this happen? Where we have to, take 18 months ago, people that and is it mismanagement of funds? Is it lawsuits? Also, I have a building that I'm not running the business out of, but it's a commercial building that I use for personal storage. And I'm not making any money on it. So I was just wondering why I would be charged for something if I'm not even making any money on it. So hope you take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Don Watson. Don, please state your name and city of residence for the record.
My name is Dawn Watson. My city of residence is Medford. I am here speaking on behalf of Phoenix Talent School District. I have been a school board member for 13 years, almost 14 now. Many of you already know me. I am here to thank you for working with us all the time. You have been, Brent and Alex have been talking back and forth, and you have made an exemption in your resolution. My concern is currently we do not have an SRO contract with the city. And so in the exemption, it says when there's a contract. And so my concern is, I don't know when the billing cycle is going to be. And so when we don't have contracts, especially summer is sometimes hard to get everybody in. Sometimes our board doesn't, we only meet once there's gaps. And so that's my concern, to take that in consideration. I think your intent was great, but I see a few loopholes that I'm concerned about. And so I just wanted to bring that up so that you could talk about that during discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Brent Berry, please state your city of residence and.
Thank you, Mayor. Brent Berry, Phoenix Talent Schools, City of Residence, Jacksonville, representing Phoenix Talent today. I just want to share again, kind of what Don was saying about appreciation of working together. I think it's understandable that we were pretty shocked when we got this letter after we were just having a discussion on the SRO, and we've worked through some discussions and came up with an agreement. So I called city staff and worked through and appreciate the exemption from the ordinance to with that partnership with the SRO. I think there are some, what Don said, a little bit of ambiguity with the timing of that if we don't have a contract in place in that regard. And I think finally, just looking at kind of the formula, Charles, trying to understand it. I still want to continue to understand it because we may be in this if we don't have an SRO program. So I have a number of questions there as well, if this ends up being something that we're responsible for. So appreciate your time. I do want to just finish with, on your agenda, you have an SRO in the consent agenda, and we lost a board member today. Rick Nagel has been battling some illness, and he is an architect of the SRO program in our district. And so it's pretty symbolic that you're voting on that today. So thank you.
Rick Harris.
Thank you. My name is Rick Harris. I live in Talent, but rural. I own a building in town. I have a number of bullet points. I'll try to go quickly so I can get through the 3 minutes. First, I think the proposal on 8B is a faulty mechanism to solve a different issue. We're not solving a public safety issue. We're solving a $300,000 budget shortfall. And so to tie it all to public safety, I think is inappropriate. On the 22nd of July, it was proposed that 75% would come from residents, 25% commercial. In the new proposal, it's 66% residents, 34% commercial. The transportation ordinance and the public safety ordinance seem to use different traffic counts for the same buildings. That doesn't make sense to me. And so interestingly, the average homeowner in Talent will have an 85% increase And as you heard from another business owner, my own will be 858% increase in the public service costs. This proposal actually represents 78% increase of my total tax bill for the city of Talent. 78%. There are 1,700 roughly police calls. And that's where the allocation of 6634 came from. However, the police calls are not the totality of the public service, public safety piece. And yet that's being the way the allocation is dealt with. My particular building is called 100% strip retail. It's not. I have 50% that is office space. I have 20% that's retail, and I have 30% that's a restaurant bar. So I think many of the buildings are misclassified. So what can you do? You've got a number of pieces on the proposal, most of which I find not appropriate. So first, if you got a public safety issue, put it in front of the voters as a levy. If you have a budget shortfall, ask for a change in the way allocation is made on property taxes. Don't use this faulty mechanism and cram everything about your budget shortfall into a public safety issue. It's just not appropriate. It was also suggested that what you could do is refer the ordinance to the voters as a trial run. That really reinforces a faulty mechanism and says voters, all of whom, not me, but all of whom are residents of town, I don't get a vote. They get a vote on an 85% increase and get to vote me an 858% increase. I think it's a faulty mechanism trying to solve a real issue. And just because you've got the mechanism doesn't mean it's the right one to use. I appreciate all of you for your service. I know this is tough. I don't think this is the right solution to drive business out of Talent.
Thank you. Nope, sorry, you guys. Tammy Sona, please come forward and state your city of residence for the record.
Sure. I'm Tammy Sona from Bedford, Oregon, and I own a business here in Talent called Sona in Wagner Plaza. Rick Harris is my landlord. That 78% that he talked about, who do you think is going to pay that? Me, as a tenant holder. I opened my business here in 2019, lost it in the Alameda fire. And I'm here today in opposition to the opposed business safety. The current proposal bases fees on estimated traffic. For businesses located in Wagner Plaza, that model is fundamentally flawed. Our parking lot serves as the primary downtown parking area for numerous businesses, a theater, community events, and visitors. The traffic through our lot does not reflect the actual demand our business places on public services. Since opening in 2019, our business has had just one police report, a non-emergency shoplifting incident involving a known local individual. Our actual use of public safety resources has been minimal. Although this assessment is billed to commercial property owners, everyone knows those costs will ultimately be passed on to the small businesses that use those spaces. At a time when many of us are already struggling to survive, this is simply another financial burden. We returned to Talent immediately after the fire because we believed in rebuilding the scheme. Unfortunately, many small businesses in this town and everywhere else are facing declining sales, rising costs, and increasing financial pressure. Adding another recurring fee based on an inaccurate traffic model is neither fair nor equitable. If the city believes businesses should contribute to extraordinary public safety costs, then I ask that you consider a usage-based model rather than a monthly assessment model based on estimated traffic. Businesses that require significant police response should pay more than businesses that require none or many. Finally, I hope the council carefully considers whether all affected businesses like myself, the tenant, have had an equal voice in this discussion. Those of us who will ultimately bear these costs deserve a transparent process and an assessment that is based on actual public safety demand, not assumptions.
Mayor, can you pause this from, but the audience don't want to know this.
So we'll just set up some chairs here, you bet.
Everybody requesting to speak.
Yeah. Got it all. Karen, do we need online speakers?
How many people are gonna come over?
They're gonna, is there cords there or that's okay?
On deck.
I think it might be time for some council change. Get the-
The town hall, currently get the funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, residents of Oak Valley will not be second ruled. Yeah, we gave it our best shot.
Like everybody's in.
Yeah. All right, I'm just gonna check one more time for speaker request forms on any topic other than the public hearing tonight. And I want to say thanks everybody for their patience as we've worked out a technology issue that didn't work out. So we're happy to welcome members of Oak Valley for the public hearing right here in this room. All right, so with that, thank you everybody for your public testimony. We will move now to item number 5, with public hearing. Staff ready? We're good? All right. Public hearings are conducted under a prescribed procedure. Public hearings are conducted under a prescribed procedure depending on the topic. The presiding officer will conduct a hearing in accordance with those procedures that will allow for the public input and announce time. So item number 5A is to rezone Oak Valley subdivision. A public hearing to consider legislative type 4 application for a comprehensive plan amendment and zoning map amendment file number C6-001 and Res 2026 dash. Is this better? Yeah. Consideration, not very accused of not being heard, so. Consideration of ordinance 26 dash, this one seems to be cutting in and out. How about this one? Is this one working good? Yeah, thank you, Counselor Greider. I mean, we can just share this one. If that's okay with the board. Does that work for the board? Okay. So let me just say a public hearing to consider legislative type 4 application for a comprehensive plan map amendment and zoning map amendment, file number CPA 2026-001 and Res 2026-001. Consideration of ordinance 2026-011-0 and 2026-012-0. Implementing the respective comprehensive plan and zoning map changes, rezoning the Oak Valley subdivision from residential high density and residential medium density. There is a typo if you have an agenda. It is medium density, not low density. So with that, I'm going to read the legislative hearing notice here.
Mayor, is the hearing open?
Not yet.
Okay. Can we really briefly ask people to refrain from utilizing the chat?
Yes, is on Zoom. Yeah. So we're going to ask you if you're using Zoom to refrain from using the chat function. If you have any chats about audible or audio or video, you can make it directly to the host.
Mayor, apologies, may I interrupt again? Given we failed to check the public testimony right at 6:30. We had a request at 6:28 that came in and we failed to bring to your attention.
Happy to go back. Yep,
Thank-
happy to go back. We have not opened up that public hearing, so we are in good shape.
So we received an email request for public testimony from Russell Hodge.
Okay, thanks for getting that clarified. So Russell, please state your name and city of residence for the record.
Yep, my name is Russell Hodgson. I live in Talent, Oregon. I'm making some comments based on the water rate hike or increases for non-residential. So in all the research that was done, when the city came up with the new non-residential rate hike for business owners, I have a question of where any other alternative scenarios explored. There's many cities around that have adopted a use-based fee systems. Unfortunately, there are certain properties that require the police to be dispatched disproportionately to the standard businesses in town. 1 year ago, I saw an annual dispatch report that nearly 24% of all calls to the police in town were from Renaissance Flats apartment complex. The residents there all pay their own water bill separately, so they're paying their fair share as residents of town. However, the owners of that property are a huge corporation and do not pay 24% of the annual budget. I'd recommend the town examines a more equitable structure to alleviate the burden on our local small businesses that may have 1 or 2 occurrences requiring the police presence per year and don't use much water. In my wife's old city of Fort Myers, after 2 calls went out to a specific location for criminal activity per month, fines were levied against the property owner by code enforcement, $100 to $500 per occurrence and up. If the fees weren't paid, the city could place a lien against the property until it was paid. The car traffic model of setting water rates that the city has settled on seems to penalize businesses that are successful and sounds more like what happened at the Foodery recently, where the manager was charging tenants higher and higher monthly maintenance fees since they had a vague contract with approximate maintenance fees and not solid expectations of expenses. That turned out backfiring. They lost many of their tenants, new management was put in place, and the new tenants had to be found. This sounds a bit like bait and switch the existing small businesses in town that have supported our community by simply being in business. Town will have a hard time keeping businesses if we have these rate hikes go into effect. Town will also have a hard time convincing new businesses to open here with these types of rate adjustments based on how much traffic is generated by the businesses and not actual water use. Having residential and non-residential customers pay for the lack of willingness for the city council to meaningfully raise public safety rates over the last 18 years is tragic. There was one adjustment at the end of last year. This is like a slow motion car accident that we had the ability to see for years, but not doing anything to avoid the collision. In the city's own recent survey, the vast majority said they would be willing to pay higher rates to have police 24/7. Of course, that is neither here nor there now, but adopting a more fair way to make up the generational deficit seems like a better answer than a quick fix. There are properties that use the public safety services disproportionately, and I recommend coming up with a fee structure for services rendered to fill the budget gap, not just adding fees to the water bill, whether they use more water or not, since that is the easiest way to capture more budget. Thank you for your time.
I do want to state something for the record, just because we have such a large audience and I don't want there to be a lack of clarity. So I don't have your speaker request form. Normally I would have it and I would be able to tell what item you were speaking on. So I'm assuming
Sorry.
AP,
Yeah.
very good. Okay, so that's the service charge and for the public safety service charge. And that is a fee that rides on your water bill, but has nothing to do with your water usage. So I just want to make that clear for everybody. They are not related. It's just that it comes in on your water bill like the other fees, and the adjustments between the two have no relationship at all. So appreciate your comments. I just want to make that clear for the record and for the attendees. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on the, we're going back to the public hearing. I will have considered that I read the hearing item, and I'm just going to go ahead and now read the statement. So I call this legislative public hearing on August 5th, 2026 to order as the mayor of the city council for the city of Talent, Oregon at 7:41. The public hearing today will be consideration of comprehensive plan map amendment and zoning map amendment affecting properties within Oak Valley subdivision. The application was submitted by Road Planning and Development Services LLC on behalf of the Oak Valley Homeowners Association and individual property owners. Local file number CPA 2026-001 and Res 2026-001. The City of Talent City Council has the authority to hold legislative hearings in accordance with Oregon public meeting laws as described in ORS 192.610 through 192.710. Our decision on legislative issues as the City Council who make the final decisions to approve, modify, or deny. The agenda for today's meeting, a copy of the rules of the procedures for the application or an appeal of the hearing today, and copies of relevant staff reports are available from staff and on the website. If you have questions or do not understand the procedures governing today's legislative hearing, please ask city staff for further explanation before public testimony portion of this hearing begins. Staff have determined that the approval criteria that apply to the legislative matter under consideration are A, Transportation Planning Rule -OAR 660-012-0060. B, Oregon statewide planning goals. Goal 1, citizen involvement. Goal 2, land use planning. Goal 5, natural resources, scenic and historic areas. Goal 9, economy. Goal 10, housing. Goal 12, transportation. C, talent comprehensive plan consistency. Element A, citizen involvement. Element B, parks and recreation. Element C, natural hazards. Element D, transportation. Element E, economy. Element F, public facilities. Element G, housing. Element H, regional plan. D, talent municipal code. So the letter I, 18.190.020 - description of permit procedure. Municipal Code 18.190.060 - type 4 procedures legislative. Municipal Code 18.190.080 general provisions. Municipal Code 18.10.030 establishment of zones by map. Municipal Code 18.10.040 boundaries of zones. Municipal Code 18.30.010 description and purpose of residential medium density. Municipal Code TMC 18.195 nonconforming uses, lots, and structures. Municipal Code 18.195.050 reconstruction. Municipal Code TMC 18.185 traffic impact studies. 4, evidence and testimony in this hearing must be directed towards these criteria or other criteria in the city's zoning code, comprehensive plan, subdivision code, or other applicable land use and development related regulations that the person believes apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue with sufficient clarity and detail to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond accordingly to the issue precludes appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Before the end of the hearing, any participant may request a continuance. In addition, whether or not there is a continuance, a participant may request that the record of the proceedings remain open for at least 7 days after the hearing.
The city council will consider whether or not they will continue the hearing or leave the record open for a specified length of time for new written testimony or evidence. When called to speak, please come to the microphone and state your name and city of residence for the public record. Please direct your comments to the applicable criteria as identified by city staff. The following timelines are allotted for public testimony. The applicant will have 15 minutes. Individuals will have 5 minutes. An individual representing a group will have 10 minutes. Applicant rebuttal, 10 minutes. After listening to testimony and considering the evidence, the city council may vote to recommend approval with conditions, or denial on the application, unless the matter is continued or tabled to another date-specific meeting. If you have any questions or do not understand the procedure, please raise your hand to ask them now. Now is the time for any members of the council to disclose any bias, conflicts, or interest and ex parte communications concerning the matter of a comprehensive plan map amendment and zoning map amendment affecting properties within Oak Valley subdivision, local file CPA 2026-001 and Res 2026-001. During the public portion of the hearing, any person has the right to provide evidence-based written or oral challenge to the substance of the information provided by any council member's disclosure or lack thereof. Would any member of the council like an additional definition of bias, conflict of interest, or ex parte? Do you want some explanation on ex parte? Ex parte is the one that we usually don't deal with. So if you haven't had a definition, this is the time for us to get it. Why don't you go ahead and give us an ex parte definition, or Rick, whoever.
Sure. So ex parte contact would be contact you've. Thank you. Would be contacted in conversations you've had with the applicant or those affected by the proposal, and you have information that the rest of the body does not have. For that reason, we're asking if you have ex parte contact. It's relatively easy to fix. If you've had conversations with the individuals, you can just, raise your hand and say, yes, I've had conversations. And then I would ask if those conversations were or were not represented by the staff report. And if they were not, then we could fix the ex parte by sharing so that the entire body has the same information.
I will say on this item, ex parte, as ex officio, I was at the Planning Commission hearing, though I didn't participate in the hearing itself as a deliberator. I did express at the end of the meeting that it was a good thing to see that we've gotten this far after the many years that we've worked on this. That said, if I had to participate, I believe that I could still remain objective. Any other? All right. Did you want to say something, Rick?
No, I was going to ask if the conversation you got from the Planning Commission was represented in this staff report in front of you.
Yes.
Then that would solve the ex parte contact.
Thank you. Staff report, and let's see, would any other, let's see, so then staff report, including approval criteria. Staff?
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. What we have before us is a recommendation from the Planning Commission for a type 4 legislative application for, as you mentioned, a comprehensive plan map amendment and zoning map amendment. The applicant's request is a designation and zone change for approximately 11.4 acres within Oak Valley subdivision from residential high density to residential medium density. And this represents part, and there is approximately 3.01 acres that will remain parks and open space and will not be changed by this action. Subject properties are located within Talent urban growth boundary on the north side of West Valley View. The area was originally developed as a planned residential community in the 1990s, consisting of detached single-family residences. Following the 2020 Alameda fire, many homes within the subdivision were rebuilt under temporary like-for-like reconstruction allowances. And the proposal in front of us for the down zoning seeks to correct the mismatch between the planned high density designation and the established built form. One of the key things that I would like to mention is The subject site lies within the FEMA 100-year floodplain and its associated environmental overlay. Because it is already developed and heavily constrained by these environmental regulations, the subdivision is not considered developable land for the purpose of the city's buildable lands inventory. And for that reason, the Oak Valley subdivision was excluded from the inventory of buildable lands, which is consistent with Oregon Administrative Rules 660-038-0017 subsection 2. And that is one of the questions that I know the Planning Commission definitely had, and I wanted to highlight. This would not negatively impact the buildable land inventory that we recently had done. The proposal we find is consistent with state laws, the state OAR laws, the Oregon State land use goals, the City of Talent comprehensive plan requirements, and the city's zoning requirements. And Mayor, that is a brief summarization of the staff report in front of you. If there are, I just wanted to mention the findings that were approved by the Planning Commission, start on page 32 of 181 of your packet and end on page 38 of 181 in your packet. I did see a hand.
I have a question. In the staff report and in your oral report just now, you mentioned that a changing of this zoning will not have any impact on our housing inventory needs.
On our buildable land inventory.
Okay, but so that might have answered my question. But so when we, as part of our housing needs analysis, it could have an impact on the housing needs analysis, though I would argue not a negative impact. It could have an impact on our HNA because it's changing the housing type, right? We're not adding or subtracting a number of houses from our buildable land inventory, but we are changing the type of housing. So that could impact the needs analysis, could it not?
It could, but it would actually put the housing needs analysis more in line with the reality of what is built in the city of Talent.
Right. But I mean, for future projections, that would be an adjustment that we need to be aware of. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Terribly sorry, before you go into
Okay.
public hearing,
Mm-hmm.
I put my own sign-in sheet and I do need to go check it to make sure if there was anybody on it. So,
Happy to wait.
okay.
Now, I open the public testimony on this matter and remind those present or observing that the evidence and testimony given in this evidentiary hearing must address the criteria summarized by the city planner or other land use and development related regulations that the person testifying believes to be applicable to the decision. So we will provide 5 minutes for individual testimony and 10 minutes if you're representing a group. If you're providing testimony when called upon, come to the microphone, sign in, which we've already done. State your name and state your city or residence. Or if you reside outside the city boundaries, state the county you reside in. Procedural question is that if somebody isn't signed on here, but they come up to speak, can they sign on? My procedural question is if somebody decides they want to speak, they can come up and speak and just sign in according to these instructions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
But the applicant would be first on our list.
All right. Sorry, it doesn't indicate that on this. So we'll go ahead and have the applicant come forward. State your name and city for the record. And that you, Amy?
Yes, I don't get to come forward because I'm broadcasting my presentation on the screen behind you.
Okay. Stay where you
No,
are.
same here.
State your name and city for the record.
My name is Amy Gunter, Road Planning and Development Services. My business is located in Medford, Oregon. Good evening, counselors, mayor, and citizens. As stated, the request before you tonight is a comprehensive plan map amendment and zone change for the Oak Valley subdivision. And I'm here this evening on the Oak Valley Homeowners Association. The Oak Valley Homeowners Association is a contemporary 55+ residential community consisting of 85 lots, 78 of which are residential, arranged along privately owned streets. The subdivision is on the north side of the intersection of West Valley View Road and Oak Valley Drive. The community includes a mix of developed and vacant lots, as well as designated open space. The neighborhood features one-story homes, many built to modern construction standards, with the vast majority of the homes rebuilt following the loss of them during the 2020 Alameda fire. The association manages shared responsibilities for the private roads, common open space, sets governance standards for their community as a whole. The character of the subdivision reflects new construction and the community's efforts to recover and rebuild after the fire. The entire subdivision is within the RHD zone, surrounded by neighborhoods that are zoned RHD, Commercial Highway Business District, and Commercial Highway. This is the plat map of the development showing all of the lots. The request is for a comprehensive plan map change for the entire portion of the property that is comprehensive plan map designated residential high density, RH, to change to residential medium density. The parks and open space designations would remain, as those residentially developed lots would just be considered non-conforming under the comprehensive plan, but conform to the zone change. The plan amendment applies to a total of approximately 11.4 acres, or the 78 development lots. 62 plus have been redeveloped under or are under construction, and that's approximately 7.75 acres of the development. The request is to rezone the property from multifamily high density to single family medium density. The proposed area of requested zone change is all within the city limits. The proposal is to allow for the continued development of the residential properties within the Oak Valley subdivision with detached single-family residences. The property was developed as a subdivision in the late 90s, allowing for the current development pattern. Following the fire disaster, there was a temporary ordinance allowance to permit single-family development in the multifamily zone where single-family homes are not allowed. The request is to allow the rezoning to single-family medium density, which will align with the existing development pattern of the subdivision. The zone would retain the stable, healthful, livable residential development that is existing, allows the existing detached single-family residences to remain, and in the event that a residence is destroyed in a large event or in an individual event and unable to be reconstructed in 1 year, as everyone learned, it's really unlikely and nearly impossible after a big fire. This would allow for these homes to be rebuilt to the allowed zoning and not have to go through some sort of variance procedure or ordinance change that was allowed for the temporary allowance to reconstruct the homes. The proposed RMD zone allows for detached residences and accessory residential units, but does not require the development of 2 dwelling units, which is required in the high density zone. So everyone could still have 2 dwelling units if they chose to. They aren't forced to with the zone change. And that's essentially the crux of the whole issue. As Rick noted, the entire subdivision area is within the Wagner Creek and Bear Creek Goal 5 protected resources. It's within the setbacks of those resources, is in the floodplain, and so by today's standards, this subdivision would have a very difficult time even being approved. So the proposal does not impact the floodplains, does not change the comprehensive plan designation of those open spaces, and doesn't have any greater impact than already existing. There's also some areas identified as severely constrained steep slopes, but there's no evidence of landslide or other failure. Transportation impacts, usually with zone changes, this is like the primary issue that's considered, considering that high density multifamily residential generates more vehicle trips than a low density single family zone. There's no anticipated increase in vehicle trips
or even future potential vehicle trips if they had accessory dwelling units. The streets within this subdivision are private and they do not have public streets. The private streets are also not constructed to city standards, which require on-street parking and that sort of thing. And so developing these lots to multifamily standards is substantially more difficult than where you have a typical city street where there's on-street parking or other parking areas. That just doesn't apply in this neighborhood. So to keep it short and sweet, the requested comprehensive plan amendment from RH to RL and the zone change from residential high density to residential medium density is consistent with the City of Talent Comprehensive Plan, Talent Zoning Code, and applicable statewide planning goals. The existing Oak Valley subdivision was constructed as detached single-family neighborhood, and the requested zone change and comprehensive plan amendment brings the official zoning designation into alignment with the established development pattern. The comp plan map and the zone designation as high density when developed at a lower density creates a paper capacity. Effectively, it looks like the city's meeting housing needs and having enough land for high density multifamily housing when actually there's a shortage of high density multifamily land because it's occupied with detached single family homes. So there's other places in Talent like the T4 and T5 areas that are vacant, that are along the bus routes, that are along the high density roads that are probably better places for high density multifamily than in a single family neighborhood with private streets. So the whole goal is to just align the zoning with the development pattern that's there. And then the deed restrictions, CC&Rs that require ownership occupancy requirements and agreement by the majority of owners for development, such as a multifamily development, create a situation where multifamily development is even further unlikely due to the CC&Rs and all the regulations within the subdivision itself. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Amy. Coming up in the public hearing. I'll be opening the public hearing now. Okay. So if you are providing testimony when called upon, come to the microphone, sign in, state your name and state your city of residence. If you reside outside city boundaries, state the county you reside in. So I only have one speaker request form, so I'm not going to ask who's speaking in favor or opposed.
Ask for speaking in favor.
Okay, is there anybody here speaking in favor? If so, Robert Larac, are you here to speak in favor of this application? That Robert Lavaro, maybe? I don't see the. Okay. Is there anybody here to speak in opposition?
I received no others. So what you have there?
There's only the one signature and Robert Lavaro, is he online maybe? He spoke during he spoke for another item,
That sounds correct.
right? I think he signed in, well, he did indicate. Yeah, okay. So if there's no speakers, does staff have any further written communications on the topic?
No, Mayor, but if we could ask for if there's anybody on Zoom for in favor and then opposition as well, please.
Let me get to a place where I can see them. Okay, how would you like them to? If you want to speak in favor, please unmute yourself and let us know so we can take your testimony.
Yeah, so we'll raise your hand so that staff can.
I don't
invite
think
you
they
to-
can. I don't think they can raise their hand if they're on just a phone, right?
I don't see anybody just by phone.
Okay. Anybody want to speak in favor? Anybody want to speak in opposition? Please raise your hand. All right,
Thank you.
are we good to go? So does staff have any further written communications on this topic?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Does the applicant wish to provide any rebuttal or any criteria on any criteria? I suppose that's a moot point.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Before the public testimony of the hearing is closed, does any participant wish to request any time frame extension? All right, the public testimony portion of this meeting is now closed and it is 8:06. Before we turn to deliberation, any questions for staff from the council? Counselor Collet.
Yeah, so my understanding is this will be now zoned residential medium density. Does that mean that ADUs can still be built, or do the CCRs prevent that? And also, just a follow up to that too, is what rises to the top, the CCRs or the zoning?
That is a very fair question. From a zoning perspective, ADUs are still allowed. And if an ADU application hits my counter, I am obligated to fill that application. And then the subdivision and the homeowners association, it would then be a civil matter if they wanted to prevent that build, but we are obligated to fulfill. Does allow. Right, the CCNRs does prohibit from what I
Okay,
understand.
thank
I don't know if I got you. Yeah, so, and then in order to, for the CCNRs is to fulfill its prohibit, then it's a civil matter.
Thank you.
Is it worth noting that that's a state law? I mean, that's a state.
It is worth.
Yeah.
It is worth
Okay.
noting that is state mandated.
Just for clarification, it's state mandated that we would have to accept the application.
Correct, we have to accept.
And so both the zoning and the CCR both have to allow it. There has been some attempt by the legislature to override CCRs to make more dwelling styles allowable where CCRs prohibit them. The latest legislation is quite broad. The original legislation had a grandfather clause in it. The new one does not. It hasn't been tested as far as I'm aware. So the answer is a little bit complicated from that standpoint. It's not exactly clear whether or not, if it came push to shove, whether a ADU would be allowed.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? So are there does anybody want to make a motion? I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Collet?
Yeah, just to clarify, these are the motions on page 18, correct? And start with number 1 and read the whole thing?
They were, make sure we're not reading the planning commission motion. You are correct, page 18 of 181. Motion number 1 would be for the comp plan map change. Motion number 2 would be for the rezone.
Okay, I'm ready, Mayor.
Counselor Collet?
Suggestion motion number 1 for CPA 2026-001. I move to introduce by first reading ordinance 2026-010-0. The City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, map designation change. The comprehensive plan designation of properties located within the Oak Valley subdivision as shown on the map labeled as Exhibit A and listed tax lots listed in Exhibit B attached are hereby changed from residential high density RHD to residential medium density RMD. Section 2, this ordinance will take effect on September 20th, 2026 pursuant to City Council introduction by a first reading on August 5th and approval by a second reading on August 19th, 2026.
We have a motion and a section, a motion and a second to introduce by first reading ordinance 2026-010-0. The City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, map designation change. The comprehensive plan designation of properties located within the Oak Valley subdivision as shown on the map labeled as Exhibit A and listed tax lots listed in Exhibit B attached are hereby changed from residential high density RHD to residential medium density RMD. In Section 2, the ordinance will take effect on September 20th, 2026 pursuant to City Council introduction by a first reading on August 5th and approval by a second reading on August 19th, 2026. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Yes.
Counselor Medina,
Yeah.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Perry Miller. Motion passes.
And I'll entertain a motion for motion 2. Counselor Perry Miller.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to introduce by first reading ordinance 2026-011-O. The City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, zoning map change. The zoning of properties located within the Oak Valley subdivision as shown on the map labeled as Exhibit A and listed tax lots listed in Exhibit B attached is hereby changed from high-density residential RHD to medium-density residential RMD. Section 2, this ordinance will take effect on September 19th, 2026 pursuant to City Council introduction by a first reading on August 5th and approval by a second reading on August 19th, 2026.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to introduce by first reading ordinance 2026-011-O. The City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, zoning map change. The zoning of properties located within the Oak Valley subdivision as shown on the map labeled as Exhibit A and listed tax lots listed in Exhibit B attached is hereby changed from high-density residential to medium-density residential. Section 2, this ordinance will take effect on September 19th, 2026 pursuant to City Council introduction by a first reading on August 5th and approval by a second reading on August 19th, 2026. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Collet,
Yes.
Counselor Medina,
Yeah.
Counselor Greider,
Yeah.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Perry Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item number 6 is the City Council and Department reports.
Can I do something?
Yep.
Okay, so I should have mentioned, I didn't realize right now that the SRO contract is
Okay, when we get there, if you want to take it out.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll entertain that when we get there. Oh, you want to go back and do a recusal?
Yeah, whatever that would be good.
I'll go ahead and entertain it now.
Okay, so out of an abundance of caution, I just want to let everyone know I work for the Phoenix Town School District. And we are going to look at the agreement for the SRO for the school district. I do not work at Talent Elementary or Talent Middle School. So I believe I can participate with objectivity, but out of an abundance of caution, I just want to state that.
Yeah. Is it sufficient for her to not say potential conflict?
Oh.
No.
It may be a potential conflict, but I do not believe it will be since I do not work in either of those buildings.
All right, the next item is city manager and department reports. Staff?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I want to update you all on a few things. We discussed the potential for a community development, public works restructuring of the administration of those two departments. We are moving forward with that, but without hiring an additional planner. I think we thanks to this suggestion of council, I think we've identified sufficient consultant-based resources to give that a good test without having to hire a additional staff member. I want to share that the city has, it appears, we've got an initial notice of a budget award for the budget that was recently approved. City received bids on the Faith Circle water line replacement yesterday. And those bids were well below the engineer's estimate. So we're looking forward to getting that project done and that leak repaired. The revised Chuck Roberts park application has been submitted. And finally, I did want to note that the Rogue Food Unites Market was here on campus on a trial basis. The library to on a trial basis. It's gone so smoothly. They decided to call that trial redone in advance, and it's good to have that going on here, and that's my report.
Great. Counselor Perry Miller?
I missed the first part of what you said, just as people were leaving. Could you repeat that first?
Of course. So I had discussed with you all, I think at the last meeting or meeting immediately prior, the potential, well, that Rick was serving as Public Works Director on an interim basis. At that point, my plan was to hire an additional planner which remains our plan, assuming that works, and we confirmed that works. There was some concern from council, I think rightly so. Well, what happens if that restructure doesn't work and you've got an additional planner on staff? And so I think, what I was reporting is that we've identified, we have sufficient consultant-based planning resources that we're going to continue with the test. We think we can give it a fair test without hiring that additional plan.
Good. Anything else? All right. Everybody had a chance to read the police report? I actually had a question about it, but it wasn't.
I had requested it be struck just because the chief was
Oh,
not,
that's right.
is only online, but I think if there's a question, I'm sure she could address it.
She's on, but she's online.
Correct.
I don't think I marked the question, so I think if it's a compelling question, I'll pursue it. Sometimes my questions aren't very compelling. All right. Next item on the agenda is item number 7. It's a consent calendar. Is there anything on the consent calendar that anybody wants to pull out for further discussion? All right. I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Collet.
I move to approve the consent calendar. Minus D.
We have a motion and a second. Second is from Counselor Martin to approve the consent calendar minus D. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Collet,
Yes.
Counselor Medina,
Yes.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Perry Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next item on the agenda is item number 8A, transportation fee calculation update. Staff?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. As we were considering basing a public safety fee on trip generation, it drew our staff's attention to make sure that our public safety, our transportation calculations made sense. And we discovered that one, it had been a while since those calculations had been reviewed. We have a new set of ITE data, and some of those there were some new land uses that hadn't the fees had not been updated to reflect those new land uses. So I'd like to share with you a bit about how a trip generation method is done, both as background for a slight change to the transportation methodology, but also as background for the public safety discussion. Let me get my PowerPoint up. So I'll just run through what the existing ordinance says, make sure that you all understand the calculation method, and then share the updated land use generation estimates that are essentially what is being asked to be adopted under the ordinance. So the existing ordinance directs the city to charge transportation fees proportional to the daily trip ends at each utility customer. Those numbers are, you start with a weekday daily trip average that's generated by the Institute for Transportation Engineers. Using also information from them, you remove pass-by trips, i.e. you give a discount reflecting the fact that some trips have multiple locations. And then you also apply a trip length factor, reflecting that longer trips use more of the transportation system than shorter trips. Our code states that that when we revise categories of use or trip generation or trip length factors, those should be adopted by ordinance. And so that is why I'm bringing it to you all. I'll walk through just a couple examples rather than talking through the theory. So with an example of a gas station that has 8 pumps, what the ITE manual reports is the average of all the studies that they have available to them. On average, the gas stations generate about 172 trips per day per pump that they have. That sounds high. It's high in part because each time somebody arrives or leaves, that counts as a trip in. So first, you should cut that in half if you're thinking about the number of customers per pump. But it also reflects anybody who comes to that gas station, whether they're getting gas or not. So they're stopping to get cigarettes, they're stopping to use the air, are there employees come and go. Each of those trips is included. When you adjust that for trip length and pass by, there's quite a bit of reduction, reflecting the fact that we often stop for gas on the way someplace else. So the adjusted number is only 42 trips per month. And if you had 8 pumps, that will generate almost 340 daily trips. And at a 25-cent per trip fee, that would generate a monthly fee of $84. Currently, our fee is set at 38 cents per trip. When we audited and did new trip calculations, it was clear that we were undercounting trips significantly. So the proposed ordinance proposes to keep the total amount of revenue constant. So we're proposing to reduce the per trip amount, but reallocate more accurately across the customers their actual trip generation. We had a gas station that was actually being charged the residential amount, or a couple residences. So you've heard related to the public safety fee, and I think not as much comment about the transportation fee, concerns about percentage changes. There were some cases where the fees were frankly unreasonably low. For example, a gas station generates a lot more trips than your typical household. One other example would be a medical office building. So the ITE average, the study average in the ITE reports is they generate about 36 trips per day per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area. So a 3,300 square foot medical office building would generate about 120 daily trips by that estimate, and which would result in a monthly fee of $30. Why don't I pause there and see if there are questions about how trip generation estimates are calculated?
Any questions?
One thing I failed to note is the city's ordinance does provide an opportunity to appeal an estimate. So anytime we change the estimate, we notify the customer of what that estimate is and invite them to provide us to appeal that estimate. One of the questions during public testimony was how often this kind of thing is reviewed. I don't believe we've recalculated transportation fees in a number of years. The more typical way that they're adjusted is a slight adjustment for inflation to the per trip cost. but each time a new land use is approved, so a new business moves in or a new building is constructed, we should be updating the estimate for that individual use.
Counselor Martin and then Counselor Perry Miller.
Thank you. One of the concerns that was brought up earlier was regarding the parking lot situation. Can you clarify that? If having a parking lot that is used,
Yeah, absolutely. So the size of the parking lot is not a factor in any of the land use categories that we're using. So that's not a factor.
Counselor Perry Miller.
thank you. Alex, on your or your chart, I wasn't seeing an entry for like just like a typical restaurant. And I'm wondering if I'm missing it or if it's just not, if it's not there.
So the IT manual distinguishes, fast casual, fine dining, and fast food restaurants. So there are 4 restaurant categories.
And are they similar? I'm not seeing any. Well, I guess I'm seeing fast food.
And then fine dining should be just below that.
I'm on 165. Oh, so Exhibit A maybe has it, but not the
Correct.
the
So
charts on.
Exhibit A has the complete list of land use types.
Oh, okay.
The attachment 1 is just examples, sort of selected examples of actual businesses and how the calculation would play out in their case.
I guess, whoa, the voice is very loud. As I'm reading this, I am, struggling to understand Exhibit A, I think a little bit more than I was grasping the chart before that. So I guess as I'm thinking about the type of restaurants in Talent, I'm not understanding what their typical adjustment would be.
So Exhibit A is just the very first part of the calculation. It's that raw number and the adjusted number for how many trips per 1,000 square feet a use generates according to the IT. A high turnover sit-down restaurant, according to the ITE studies, once adjusted for the fact that those are often pass-through trips, would generate 64 trips per 1,000 square feet of floor area. So to translate that, I don't think we actually classified any businesses as fast casual. We concluded that fine dining was actually a closer category to what we've got for existing restaurants. I could give you a specific example if that will be helpful.
Sure, that would be helpful for me.
Sure. I just have to get the spreadsheet open.
But if it's not helpful for anybody else, I'm happy to move on. I was just confused. Thank you.
I've got it. So I believe what our tenant is so looking at we have one fine dining restaurant that we classified as, or one restaurant that we classified as fine dining. It is about 1,500 square feet. And so that came out to a trip estimate of 91 daily trips. And transportation fee of $26 a month. That specific case actually there includes some office space up above the restaurant. So the 91 trips was the restaurant itself, and then the office space adds another 10 trips. So 90% of that $26 a month is related to the restaurant usage.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the staff report, and maybe it wasn't meant to be in here, but do you have like a rough number of what this change would mean for I'm assuming all this money goes into the street fund, correct?
Correct. So, so we held the total amount of revenue constant. So that's the ordinance reduces the non-residential charge from 38 cents per trip to 25 cents per trip, because we documented a lot more trips than the last time the city did this. So we're anticipating this sort of the same amount of revenue.
And that's why you see on that example chart, some going down and some going up.
Correct.
Okay.
Councilor Greider?
Just to clarify what you mentioned a few minutes ago about these numbers or someone getting placed here based on new permits and new openings, right? So they do not get updated at any point, or I guess going back to the concern that was raised about when this would be reevaluated and that type of thing. Just a little more clarification on that. And it's only, and again, like I'm a little new to still learning some of this. So it's only being based mostly on the size and the square foot. It's not actually, I mean, yeah, I guess just about the evaluation, how and when that would.
So there are several different things that the city could do that would change the fee. The most common would be an annual adjustment for inflation. And the council recently changed the code. The code used to say that we could update the transportation fee by resolution, but you all changed the code to state that it has to be changed any change has to be made by ordinance. So, and then if the work that we did to generate these more significant changes is unusual, there's no fixed time period to do it. We did it, but because we recognized that it needed to be done, that it was overdue to be done, because we were looking at all these figures as we were considering using this for the public safety surcharge. So I think staff's request or recommendation is to make these changes regardless of what we do with the public safety surcharge, because frankly, I think the changes are a lot more representative of what the actual trip generation is among our businesses.
Councilor Corey and Councilor Carabello.
Yeah, just a thought on implementation. I totally understand the process behind this and, you know, the recalculation based on accurate data. I worry though that depending on what decision we make on the next item regarding the public safety surcharge and how we're gonna allocate that, I just worry that there would be confusion around the business community, considering both this method has always used trip generation and that's what's been happening, and then there's a proposal to use it for a different thing. And I would just worry doing that at the same time would create a little chaos and opportunity for misunderstanding and misinformation. I would just hate for that to happen for the people who are paying that, but also for that to land on staff and having to tease out what could be quite a bit of confusion. So I don't know if there's a time that's better to implement this, but as far as implementing this makes total sense because it's what we're already doing. It's just a recalculation based on current data.
I agree that it does add complication. On the other hand, it's the ideal time for folks to request appeals. So they can do that, make a clear decision about that based on both changes. If you do elect, if the direction is to use it in both things.
Council Perry Miller, then Council Medina.
I'm actually happy to be skipped for a moment.
Okay, Council Medina.
Okay. I was just gonna say, it seems like, we have to ask a lot of questions to just understand, the way things are going, the way things are calculated. And I just want to be conscious that whatever, and I feel like you guys are echoing this too in different ways, that just whatever we do, like, it has to be like, if it's feels weird to us and unclear, it's gonna be super unclear for anyone not in this role. So I feel like we need to make sure like it's clear enough that the average person can look at it and be like, okay, this is what's proposed, this is why, what can I do? Oh, I can appeal it, I can take it, whatever, so just keep that in.
Absolutely. It was a question, but each customer has now received 2 separate letters letting them know that this is being contemplated. And we would be giving them a 3rd letter. I've talked to a number of businesses, and not many of the ones who testified tonight, but a number of businesses have called me up. I dropped off the notices in person with a number of businesses. I feel like we're only talking about less than 100 accounts. And I think we've got plenty of capacity to sit down with folks and explain these changes.
Follow up, Council Medina.
That's great. I'm really glad that you've been communicating frequently with people. I think hearing like from what people have been saying is like, they have gotten a lot of communication, obviously, but it needs to be more clear. And maybe like we use a lot of buzzwords, a lot of vocabulary specific to the council work and everything. And so maybe just something clear for them, because I hear a lot of business people want clarity as well.
I would 100% agree that there's always room to be clear, and I appreciate that feedback, and we'll strive to do that. There were some things that were very clear in that communication that were, I don't know why they were misunderstood. The statement that the public safety surcharge is dedicated only to pay for public safety is very clear in that statement. So I agree we should strive for clarity. People also don't necessarily read everything that you send them.
Councilor Perry Miller.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, Alex and Councilor Medina. I agree. There's always room for more clarity. I think that the place that I'm sort of landing with this, well, not landing, but I think I'm more concerned about the clients whose fees will be drastically increasing compared to the clients whose fees would be staying about the same or going down a significant amount. I just think like with being able to budget, I don't know how accessible the like formulation for how to track this on an annual basis would be for a business. Like how would they budget for that? But more specifically, just with this first increase, it feels like it would potentially be hitting some businesses really hard, which I know that, you acknowledged, Alex, that this is something that we need to consider. But I'm having a hard time contemplating this kind of an increase for some of these commercial accounts.
Follow up on that. Is there a world where we could calculate this without lowering any fees? And then utilizing that difference to kind of buffer the ones that are increasing by 2,300%. It just seems like if we could just create a little more kind of a softer approach, it might be easier. When I see changes of 2,300%, I think, oh, that must be on a really small number, but for some of these, the changes as much as $100 and some odd a month. And And that can be very impactful. As we heard from our businesses. Council Collet?
Yeah, can you describe the appeal process and what data goes into that? And
Sure. Before I do that, though, I would welcome a discussion of any of the individual cases that you're talking about and whether it truly is a hardship or something that's unreasonable. I think it's unreasonable that we were calculating the library is generating the same number of trips as a residential household. I think, you know, some of these changes are dramatic just because folks, there are errors in our system. But absolutely, the appeal process is defined in the code. And it's really quite flexible. It sort of invites folks to make sort of an argument based on whatever they would choose to about their trip generation, right? It doesn't invite them to question the overall approach. It invites them to question which category that they're applied to, whether the calculation in that category was correct, whether that calculation actually reflects what their actual trip generation looks like. So it's very flexible in terms of what they can present, and that really leaves it there, though, to staff's discretion to evaluate the appeal.
With respect, I don't think we do need to challenge, and I think we heard plenty from the business community about their concerns, and I appreciate your point. You are doing your job trying to fill our budget need, but with, you know, again, with respect, we're doing our job trying to represent what we're hearing from our community. So if we can continue a discussion along those lines about challenging, I think it'd be really helpful. Uncle Coy?
Sorry, Mayor, but I don't think I was challenging. I was suggesting that we talk about individual cases that are of concern.
I heard I'd be welcome individual discussions, and I appreciate that. I think challenging may have been the wrong word without disputing each line item. Maybe a softer approach that we can take there where everybody's reasonable. Councilor Corey?
yeah, is there anyone exempt from this? Because I know we had discussion about the school district again with the upcoming decision, which is different, but is there any exemptions in the transportation fee, or everybody pays it, public entity across the board?
Currently, there are no exemptions.
Okay.
The school district, I put down, for example, has an existing fee of $150 a month for the elementary school. The recalculation would reduce that by 15%.
Councilor Ryder?
Can you remind me, we discussed at the last meeting, nonprofits, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember where that landed, but because the Camelot Theater was here, and then we have received a letter from Talent Maker City, and I'm just trying to remember what the decision was.
There wasn't any. So
they could appeal. Is that what they would fall under?
They certainly could appeal.
Okay.
The current ordinance does not exempt
Okay.
any users.
Thank you.
I think there's a little type. What does it mean? I think there's a typo under middle school for the size of 150 and the pumps.
Yes, sorry, there is a typo. That should be students.
Okay.
Yes.
Middle school with a gas station.
Yeah, well. Any other comments or questions? If there isn't any, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Perry Miller?
I am not ready to make a motion For this, I do feel like just as written, I'm continuing to really struggle to feel like I can support this. I think that it may be like a logical right sizing of the transportation fee, but I don't think that it's going to feel that way to commercial customers whose fee is increasing significantly. And even though it would be a one-time adjustment, I'm just continuing to feel like I'm not prepared to support this at this time.
No, are you?
I'm just stating for the record. No, I'm just stating for the record.
Anybody else? Councilor Collet?
I feel a similar way, partially because of some of the percent increases and changes, but I also just stand by what I was stating before, that I don't think doing this at the exact same time when we're going to do the public safety fee is gonna, not just with confusion, but because of potential for increases, given all those factors. I understand the logic behind this. It makes total sense. I just don't think now is the right time. And I think there's maybe some tweaks we could make with being able to step up some of the, or over time, spread out some of the adjustments if possible.
Councilor Ryder?
I'm so sorry because it's been a long night, but was there an answer or response to what the mayor mentioned about, is there a world where they could not be lowered, but some of those balances be transferred?
Absolutely. It would require, I think, a rewrite of the ordinance. I mean, the ordinance sort of tells us to do it one way.
Okay.
Councilor Martin?
I think I'm also having a little bit of confusion, and I think I'm understanding, and then I'm kind of questioning a little bit. And as it pertains to this exact scenario, that some fees are not lowered, and then some of that money is maybe put towards others that will have a much higher increase. Is that what was that the suggestion?
That was
Okay.
suggested.
Yeah. An idea. Yeah, and I appreciate the brainstorming. I'm kind of, I guess, sharing feelings about what Daniel said about two things happening at the same time, and just trying to keep an eye on like the equity of I don't know how to quite word it, but our decision for some people to pay more, some people to pay the same and not receive the adjustment that others are receiving, and then at the same time getting another fee increase or change with the public safety surcharge. And I'm curious about if we have any examples of how these two fee changes are going to affect businesses in Talent, like, you know, for a restaurant, like this one fee change and the other fee change, how does that kind of equal out? And then what does that look like across the board? Because if we're going to get into the concept of maybe deciding if some people get their fee change and some people don't, I'm feeling, I don't know, it's feeling a little sticky to me.
Councilor Medina?
First of all, thank you for your work. Like you're giving us some hard decisions that we're gonna have to make at some point. I kind of echo, it's like everything, like even just these two fees increase at the same time is gonna feel like a lot to people. I don't know where this would fit in, but I know a lot of our fees haven't been increased in forever. Is there a way like some sort of timeline of like, okay, these are the fees we need to increase. We can do like this one at this time, this one at this time, this one at this time, just because I know we have enough in our budget to kind of hold us afloat until we can figure things out. So I feel like if I could see that timeline, like the whole picture, I feel more comfortable.
I think also as a follow-up point to Councilor Colle's concern about there being few very light changes that would be hard to do things. I mean, we have more than one option on the table for the public surcharge. We've also asked for information on a levy. And so it may be that this decision is better made after the next one, to your point, and so whether that's, tonight or the next meeting, I think if there is concern, and I'm hearing it among several counselors, that it may be hard to reconcile these two as different. Maybe we should probably think about doing the other one first, but it could be that the other one would end up being totally different. Counselor Coley?
Yeah, not to just beat this up too much, and thank you, Alex, for bringing this to us. I understand, like I said, it's logical to fix this and there's error and it hasn't been fixed in a long time, but since it doesn't change the financial outcome for the street fund and the budget, I don't see it as urgent, whereas the public safety fee, we have a problem staring us in the face that we need to fix and a hole that we need to fix. So I'm not totally opposed to this, but I just don't think right now is the time we need to do it. Do we need
Talking point. Because what comes up often is how long it's been since fees have been adjusted. And one of the things I think that we can all be really proud of is this is the council that's building in automatic adjustments as we go forward, trying to correct that challenge that really started long before us when they wrote the ordinances for fees. There was never any rules that were built in that would adjust appropriately for inflation. So when we hear that out in the community, just remember that we're the ones who are fixing it. So that's something to feel good about.
Do we need to make a motion to table, or what's the?
I mean, if that's what, if not doing this decision now is what any one of you want to deliberate, a motion will get you there. Counselor, what? Are you pointing to something?
Oh, I'm waving.
Oh, Counselor Pulley.
I move to table this decision. Do I need to state a date?
Next meeting or a date specific or a time specific?
I move to table this decision until after we have made a decision on the public safety fee.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to table this matter until after the decision is made on the other one. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, if I may, there's no need to make a motion to table. And it could only create a barrier if you or staff may want to bring this back prior to making it. I mean, I'm sorry, I'll leave it at that. I don't think there's a need for a formal motion.
I will also say that the motion is flexible enough that you could do any of that.
Mayor,
Councilor Cardinal?
people can't hear you.
Oh,
Sorry. Here we go. So we have a motion on the table and a second. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Clay,
Yes.
Councilor Medina,
Yeah.
Councilor Greider.
Yeah.
Councilor Martin,
Yes.
Councilor Perry Miller.
No.
And that passes 4-1, and I failed to, I believe the motion, just to clarify, was to table this item until a decision was made on the public safety surcharge.
Correct.
All right. The next item on the agenda is item number 8B, public safety surcharge increase. Staff report?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. And I am a little frustrated that my mouse is frozen, but I hope that I can at least use my notes to keep myself sane. I want to quickly review how we sort of recent history of how we got here, what we've discussed recently, and then I will talk about what is staff are proposing, and then discuss what the some logical alternatives as council requested. So I was going to flash for you some quotes from the last 4 budget messages, start going back to 2023, where each of your budget officers has been anticipating this need to reassess service levels and revenues. The trend in the general fund balance has been declining and is anticipated to continue to decline. And I want to just, before I talk about why staff is so uptight about fund balance, I just wanted to share, I've got a cute graphic too. We are not alone with a spaceship beaming people up, but looking at City of Phoenix, City of Rogue River, City of Medford, City of Central Point, City of Jacksonville, the communities around us are all struggling with the same issues. Those cities are raising fees from $5 to $20 a month over, a year or 2 time. It's I think that's just important to note that it's a common problem, and it's not unique to the city of Talent. Why staff is continuing harping about the fund balance trend. The first time is it's really our best indicator of our of the health of the fund, right? Budget figures are estimates going forward. The actual trend in fund balance in recent years shows us what's actually happening. And so it's a really good indicator that we have a problem. The fund balance also is our money in the bank. We earn interest on the fund balance. So just to put that into really direct terms, each $1 million in fund balance we spend down implies the need to raise the public safety surcharge by another $1. So if we delay 2 years, we will be in a situation where we need to add another $1 to the public safety surcharge to make the operational budget work. The fund balance is essential for cash flow too. I mean, it's literally our checking account. And so if we want to make payroll before property taxes start showing up in November, what the fiscal policy that you all have adopted is we believe that we should have a minimum of $2 million fund balance in the general fund. Fund balance also represents our reserves against replacing the roof in this building when it needs it, our reserves against legal judgments, our reserves against emergencies. And I think we have several uncertainties, including currently being in bargaining with the Teamsters. So it's a time where I think it would be prudent to be concerned about what our fund balances are. The discussion that we've had with the public, I just quickly share the key points. We had a public briefing with community leaders on January 13th. It was a public meeting. Brent and several of his board came and gave us great feedback. We shared that same information with at open houses, 3 open houses in February and March. And those discussions were really focused on defining the problem, sharing with folks what the trend has been with our general fund and why we're concerned about that. In the spring, we turned to discussing proposed solutions, primarily around the public safety surcharge. We held 2 open houses in April, and then a third that was followed by a council listening session. I think at all of the budget committee hearings in May, we talked about these issues, and the budget committee wrestled with them. On June 3rd, when you adopted the budget, you made the hard choice to eliminate the administrative position that staff put forward, reflective of staff's belief that this is a serious problem. On June 17th, you struggled with the decision of whether the city could afford to retain the school resource officer. thanks in part to an outpouring of concern, you chose to retain that position. On July 22nd, we had another open house, and you had the counseling listening session. And since that time, staff, well, prior to that meeting, and then since that meeting, staff have done mailings to all of the commercial accounts in town to invite them to participate in the process. So the public safety surcharge that I made put in the packet, two proposals. One is to increase the base charge of the public safety surcharge to $10.50. If you made no action on the second ordinance, that would increase both residential and commercial public safety surcharges, and would generate about $200,000 in revenue. The second ordinance that's in your packet suggests using trip generation, those same trip generation numbers that we were just talking about, to allocate the public safety surcharge. And we've had some good questions, some tonight and some on the 22nd, about the logic there and the reasonableness of that. So I think there are two questions. One is, would that result in a reasonable share of the public safety burden between residential and non-residential customers? The proposal is to put about 25% of that burden on non-residential customers. I did a review of all of the Talent Police Department activity from January to May of 26 of this year. I found that 66% of activities were connected to residential addresses and 34% were connected to non-residential addresses. The chief asked 911 dispatch to do a similar analysis. Theirs just based on zoning, which is imperfect, right? Because we have residential, I would say we have more residential within commercial zoning than we have commercial within residential zoning. So I think this probably overstates the amount that's non-residential, but the numbers that they provided us were 51% of calls were to addresses in residential zones and 49% were to addresses in non-residential zones. There's been a lot, questions about the number of calls. And I think that's one way to look at the how you allocate the cost. Another way to think about it is the benefit of having a safe city. And I think there's a pretty good argument that our commercial customers benefit and need a safe environment to operate in. So the zoning analysis has some merit to it too, right? I don't think businesses would want to be in downtown if there was no police presence in downtown. And I don't think that customers would want to be there either. So the second question, I think, is trip generation. If it is a good way to allocate, if trip generation is, or the staff proposal is a reasonable burden to put on non-residential customers, is trip generation a good way to apportion the share between commercial customers? And I'd argue that I think it is a pretty good way. It captures both employees and customers, right? We don't really have another good way to capture customer flow, which generates a lot of the police need for police support. And that's why both City of Grants Pass and Central Point are using it. I think it's a better proxy for the need for police presence than the number of employees or sales or square footage. I'd be happy to consider and look at other metrics that you all want to put forward. It's the best one that I can think of. And it is less progressive than the property tax, but I'd argue it's more accurate. And I'd say even if the council does want to move to a property tax basis for the fee for funding public safety as a whole, I think there's still an argument to look at a fee for commercial accounts, because there are commercial accounts that generate a lot of business for our police that don't necessarily have a high tax valuation. So I was going to run through, or I can run through, it's in your packet, sort of what some of the changes proposed are by land use. Coffee shop with, currently without a drive-through is paying the same amount as a single residence. The staff proposal would raise that tenfold to $55. A daycare center is currently paying the same as a residential household. The staff proposal would raise that to $20. There is a gas station with 12 pumps that is currently paying $5.66 a month. The staff proposal would raise that to $760. What's also in the staff report and in this presentation is going to more of a tiered approach that is actually what CenterPoint and Grants Pass have done. I think there's a real logic to it in that it acknowledges, although trip generation is at a gross level, like it's clearly related, it acknowledges that's a pretty imperfect measure. So grouping folks by tiers, I propose in the staff report tiers of 15, 30, 80, 60, 80, and $200. So our very highest users, that gas station with 12 pumps, would be charged $200 rather than what the direct the exact calculation would result in. And that using those tiers, assigning everybody to sort of a tier that's not any higher than what the exact calculation would be, and putting a pretty restrained cap, I would say, on the highest fee, still generates about 2/3 of the revenue that the sort of base proposal that's in the staff report. Should I stop there, or should I continue to talk about the alternatives that you asked?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Want to stop here and ask questions, or do you want to move through to the other options? Councilor Collet?
Yeah, I just had a quick numbers question. So if you add up the reductions in the administrative staffing plus these two options of increases, where does that get us in filling the hole?
So there are a couple questions, the answers to that question. So one, I think it on our budgetary basis, no, sorry, that's the wrong term. I would expect those actions together to really stop the bleeding, that we would spend down general fund balance by close to zero once those all go into effect. Obviously, those won't go into effect until October at the earliest, so we wouldn't fully realize it this year, but I think it would bring us roughly into balance. The caveats that I would add is we are doing an analysis of facilities. I don't think we have a good idea about what our costs are, our coming costs for facilities. So that, and also our parks fund balance is headed in the wrong direction as well. So to go back to your question, I think one, it does stop the bleeding, but two, I think I want to be clear that I think there are other fiscal challenges for the city as well. But
And then just a quick follow-up on that, if we did a regular fee increase but didn't do the trip generation thing, that's $200,000 less roughly.
No, sorry, it's two-thirds of the increase is the 1050. So the going to 1050 would generate about $200,000.
Right.
Right. And residents are going to pay 95% of that, just like they do currently. And then it's going to the trip generation on commercial would raise that to about 100,000, would raise about 100,000 in additional revenue.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions on this part?
I guess just when you say that it would be helpful and that it would start around October, this sort of goes into the next part about the ballot measures, but then that's gonna set it back until January. I mean, then that wouldn't be effective if it was approved by the voters, that it would be next year. And that's gonna kind of throw off your stopping the bleeding. Is that true, or would it still be?
I'm not totally sure I'm following you,
Okay.
but, I'll talk a little bit about the timing of when the ballot measure would result in additional income. I mean, I don't need to hide it, right? Yeah, I think the logical next date to do a ballot measure for an operating levy would be May of next year,
Oh,
which
okay.
would then impact property
Okay.
taxes in the 28 calendar year. So that would generate increased revenue for the city that we would see about, a little more than 2 years from now, in November of 28.
Thanks. Ryder, they can't hear you.
Yeah, and I was looking at the November 2026 information there. So you're suggesting May?
So there's a lot that goes into a ballot measure campaign. There's limitations in what public staff can do. There's also a lot of decisions that would need to be made about exactly what the city wants to put on the ballot that would need to be decided over the next couple of weeks. And then you need, if you're gonna spend money, which I would expect you would need to if you actually are serious about having this pass, you need to find a nonprofit or that's willing to work with you or establish one. Anyway, sorry, the short answer is I think if we're serious about getting a ballot measure passed, the May of next year is I think it's an extreme long shot to think about November of this year.
Counselor Collet?
I just want to concur with that. In my mind, when I think about a levy or ballot measure, I think there's a lot of thought that's going to need to be put into that. I think that may be one of the solutions that we want to use to fund this, but I think November is a little ambitious, more than a little ambitious.
I guess a follow-up would be then, how far have you done the calculations on that timeline for that wait? Does that, I mean,
So a May levy, if passed, would start generating income to the city in November of 28. So fiscal year 28, 29.
Okay.
It really would impact the full budget year though, because your property, it's a one full year of property tax, even though it's starting to show up later in that year. So the full effect of a May 26 levy would take it into effect in the 28, 29 fiscal year.
Counselor Perry Miller?
Thanks. Just a very quick question about the tiering model. Interesting that Central Point and Grants Pass are using different variations of that. Do you happen to know when each of those cities started that?
Yes, Grants Pass was pretty confident in 25. Sorry, I said that backwards. City of Central Point. It was part of their more recent change. I may actually even have that.
So pretty recent.
It's pretty recent. And City of Grants Pass a couple years prior to that. So the alternatives that you asked staff to share a little bit of information about, I'm going to talk about public safety surcharge options and ballot action options. So in terms of the public safety surcharge options, I think there's the tiering approach that we've talked about a little bit. I'll share with you City of Grants Pass top tier, I think is $3,200 a month. In City of Central Point's is, I think, 180. So we're definitely, what's proposed in the staff report is a lot closer to the central point. You all could exempt additional classes of customers from the fee. The proposed ordinance exempts the school district, and there was some concern about the timing of that. This fee wouldn't go into place until October at the earliest, and I'm confident that we will have an SRO IGA in place by that time. And if we didn't, just because we were negotiating, I'm sure we would we could find a way to we would not be forced to implement that. In terms of the ballot actions, I think I'll start at the less fruitful end. So I did include the possibility of creating a service district in sort of my laundry list of examples. I don't think that's terribly feasible. First of all, just so you're aware, if you have to be an ORS 451 service district that would be governed by the county commission. And I think it's likely only really viable to supplement rather than supplant city public safety funding with that kind of district. The council could refer an ordinance, the ordinance proposed, one of the ordinance proposed tonight, or write an entirely different ordinance, right, and refer that to the public to do something fee-based. And then, but in order to raise property taxes, that would have to be an operating levy. The city could have property tax authority for up to 5 years with an operating levy. And the language could be explicit about if this levy passes, we would pull some fees back, or it could be explicit if this levy doesn't pass, the city's going to have to look at something in terms of fee changes. So I think those were the universe of options that I think you asked me to spell out a little bit more.
Councilor Medina?
Going back to exemption with the school district, what if in the future there was just no funding for an SRO program? What would happen then?
Well, under the ordinance as proposed, the school district would then start being charged a public safety surcharge. Of course, that's be subject to an ordinance change of a future council, or you could change the ordinance as proposed, tonight to just simply exempt the school district.
Any other questions?
I did do some analysis of the contracting or outsourcing possibilities. I'd be happy to share that, but I've thrown a lot at you all tonight already.
Councilor Martin and then Councilor Perry Miller.
Just for my clarification, I'm very tired, so I don't know if I'm thinking straight, but the tiering approach is different than the phasing, correct?
Correct. So yeah, whether it's tiered or not, you could say, well, let's do 50% of this increase this year and 50% next year, or a third. So
Okay.
they're two different things.
Councilor Collet?
Is it okay if I just 9:20, and is it okay if I just state where I'm at personally on these things? Just where we're at right now, I mean, I think I mentioned before, I don't think doing any type of ballot measure this November would serve us well. So although I am interested in looking at that option, so I think looking at May for that, I feel comfortable raising the public safety fee from whatever it is, 5.15 now to 10, raising the public safety fee. I don't feel prepared to do the trip generation thing right now. I do like the idea of progressive taxes. I like the tiered structure better than just the straight across the board trip generation. But it just feels like too much of a change. And the reason I asked you kind of in the beginning of you know, how much does this fill the whole bucket? I remember in one of these conversations in the past, you asked us kind of all, how much of this problem do we want to solve this year? And I feel like if we do the cuts that we have done this year, which we've already done, and we raise the fee, and then we explore that opportunity in May, I feel like that gets us there. I wouldn't throw the trip generation stuff out. I think it's worth exploring, especially since 2 other communities in our area are doing it, but I just don't think it's worth doing at this moment.
Council Perry Miller.
I am more partial to a ballot measure conversation. I think that definitely if we're going to have that conversation, I would support May over November, just timeline wise. It seems like that would be much easier well, maybe easy is the wrong word to use. A more realistic timeline for staff. And yeah, so I'd be interested in continuing that conversation.
Counselor Medina.
I've never been involved in creating a ballot measure, so that might already be part of it, but like I'd be interested in a ballot measure too in May, but when you also present us with that information, because I know that my understanding of the ballot measure is just like a Band-Aid and we still need to fix these the holes in our budget, right? So like if they're also like, okay, we passed the ballot measure, but this is what we still need to do in the timeline. I'm in big with time we pay down today. That would be very helpful, if that makes sense.
If I could clarify, I think so. Well, $1 in property tax in the city of Talent raises over $500,000 in revenue. So it's certainly possible to solve the entire problem with a ballot measure on sort of an ongoing basis. But the only caution that I was sharing is it is some time out before we get there. So we would be continue to spend down fund balance in the meantime, if that's the only option that we're choosing.
Any other comments?
Let's make a comment.
Counselor Coley.
Yeah, just on the note, it was brought up about there's discussion of whether to use trip generation or really like an exact usage base number of calls with the police. I feel really uncomfortable even thinking about that, as a public safety is for everybody and it's paid for by everybody. And I don't like the idea of it turning into a game of, well, I've never called the police, so I'm not going to pay for them, because you might need to call the police tomorrow or next week and you never know. So I think the opportunities and options that we have on the table now, ballot measure, fees, they make more sense, but I have no interest in, trying to figure out how many times a specific entity calls the police and charging them for it.
Any other comments? Council Greider.
I do just want to. Written by Talent Maker City and Alex French, and I really, the paragraph. But research is strong social. Like safety outcomes, and I do have concern about the fees for nonprofits, and I think that some really good points are made here, and that and they have a very large building, so I'm not sure what category they would fall under, but it feels a little bit like we're setting ourselves up for appeals, and I just don't know that that's the way to go about it. So I would like to look at implementing some of those things beforehand, if possible, if we go that route. It just feels not the best use of of staff's time to have everyone submit an appeal. And the way that this doesn't factor in the success of the business, or, how much they make in revenue, or how many customers they actually have, and that type of thing. It feels like you'll get quite a few, and it just doesn't seem like the best use of time. But yeah, I just wanted to just reference this letter, because I think some really good points are made in resilience in community building, so that our nonprofits help with.
I'll entertain a motion to extend the meeting. Counselor Perry Miller,
I move to extend the meeting until 10 o'clock.
Second.
you have a motion and a second to extend the meeting till 10. Is there any discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Clay,
Yes.
Counselor Medina,
Yes.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Perry Miller.
Yes.
Yes.
Counselor Martin?
I just want to say thanks, Alex, for entertaining all of these ideas and bringing so many options to us, because this feels just very tricky. And I'm sure it feels a little tricky because I'm new, but I think it also might just be tricky. So thank you for all of this. And I'm feeling like, again, I have nothing to compare this to because I have not been on council long enough, but I've definitely felt the presence of a lot of businesses and showing up and speaking their piece, and all the letters and emails, and it just feels like a lot. And I appreciate the idea of thinking about how we could send it to a ballot and, giving that voice to the businesses and to the communities that patron the businesses. Because I think a concern of mine is that we do something hastily because I know that we need to make money. I know it's very important. But that businesses close or leave, and then we are then still collecting less money because businesses are gone, and then we're back in this exact position, but with no businesses, and then talent would just be so sad. So, yeah, no question, just thoughts.
Counselor Coley?
Just to advocate a little bit for just I'm calling it the regular fee increase, and some reasoning behind that in my mind. Not that we should just do what everyone else does, but I appreciate you providing the context, Alex, of what every other city, we're all in this together, what every other city's going through. I was looking at the city of Medford's really nice website about all their different fees and where they go, and because they've raised fees, they've put that out there. The market does matter, and we need to be cognizant of that, but I don't think this fee increase, looking at what everyone else is charging for public safety, I think we have great public safety and talent. We have great police officers. I'd like to continue offering those services to people at the high quality that we've been offering them. Right now, we're charging people a lot less for those same high quality services that they are paying in other communities. So just some data.
I have some comments. This has been, we've discussed funding the police department for so long and for so many years and in so many different ways. And it's because the impact of the public safety department is really truly the biggest impact to our budget by far. And so it just doesn't seem like a logical decision to try to reconfigure a funding source that for many people in our community seems really inequitable. So much so that with respect, the school district went to the newspaper about it. We've had businesses line up at our door about it. I personally have had a lot of communication about it. We've gotten emails. I just have to say at this late hour that the trip generation model is not a model that I think solves this issue equitably. And while I do agree that I believe staff when they say that this is a more accurate approach. I don't think it's an equitable approach from this seat. Whereas I see a tax levy being the most equitable approach because it's all based on size of building, and it is a taxing approach that our society is used to. It taxes the more vulnerable to a lesser degree than it taxes people of greater means. And to me, it's the very definition of equitability. And finally, what I think is that we just need to solve the fact that our police department is a $2 million demand in our community, 2 million plus and growing. And from my view, it needs a dedicated funding source that is consistent and constant. So I don't support the I'm tired too. The trip generation. I think I support a fee increase while we get to a ballot measure so that we don't reduce the ending fund balance and calculate it as such. But I just would caution us that by doing that, some people may feel some voters might see that as an easier road for them than a tax to their more expensive homes. And some will see it as relief, I would imagine. I think that will challenge the measure. I think our only saving grace is, as Councilor Medina mentioned at the last meeting, is that it's temporary, a levy, and so that sort of forces the issue a little bit. But I just I don't see fees as the solution. I appreciate a lot of the comments that have the long range solution. If it's a supplemental solution, I can see that, but I just don't understand how a city of our size can have a 24/7 police department, which I want, like everybody else, and not have a dedicated funding source related to property tax. So those are just my thoughts. We've had a lot of different viewpoints. It's 9:33 at night, and we're gonna either have to entertain a motion pretty soon or table this matter to the next meeting. Or continue this matter, I should say. Councilor Coe?
Yeah, I'm ready with a motion regarding the public safety surcharge.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Alex, this is the possible motion A, ordinance 2026-0130, page 175.
Page 175.
I move to introduce by first reading ordinance 2026-013-0. The City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, public safety surcharge. The public safety surcharge for all customers billed on a unit basis shall be charged $10.50 per month per unit. Section 2, this ordinance will take effect on September 19th, 2026 pursuant to City Council introduction by a first reading on August 5th and approval by a second reading on August 19th, 2026.
Second. We have a second. We have a motion and a second to introduce by a first reading ordinance 2026-013-0. The City of Talent ordains as follows. Section 1, public safety surcharge. The public safety surcharge for all customers billed on a unit basis shall be charged $10.50 per month per unit. Section 2, this ordinance will take effect on September 19th, 2026 pursuant to the City Council introduction by a first reading on August 5 and approval by a second reading on August 19th, 2026. Any discussion? Councilor Collet?
Yeah, just to speak to the motion, I think I've stated before, why I'm for this fee increase. I appreciate what the mayor said about fees hopefully being a temporary solution. I agree that a dedicated funding source through a levy makes a lot of sense. And so hopefully this fee increase won't last for a long time, and we'll be able to fund the police department through a sustainable mechanism that's more equitable going forward. But I am for this increase. While I do understand that this is not a great time to raise fees for folks and it's hard to pay for things, but we have to be responsible with our ending fund balance. And I fear that if we don't act now or do anything now and we wait to kick the can down the road, for lack of a better term, we're going to be dealing with a bigger increase or bigger issues.
Counselor Medina?
Yeah, my sentiments pretty much echo a lot of what Daniel just said. I feel like we have to make a hard decision here soon. And I think looking at like a possible levy in May, and perhaps we could lower this at that time, depending what happens. But in the meantime, we do have to make that hard decision so we don't end up in the red in the future, which will be even worse for our residents of Talent than raising this fee that hasn't been raised the way it should have in the past now. So I just want to put that out there.
Counselor Greider?
Is it okay to ask for a clarification on this motion, and question for Dave or staff, but by a first reading today and approval by a second reading on August 19th, is that meaning that it's going to come up again and will be another motion at the next meeting before it's fully passed? Okay, because I do have, I really struggle with doubling the fee for families. So that's, yeah.
Counselor Perry Miller?
Thank you. Like I said before, I'm definitely interested in having continuing conversations about a ballot measure in the spring. And I don't think that I'm going to be able to support this motion. I do think that this level of increase will impact our most vulnerable residents a lot harder than our more well-off residents. And I think I might be able to support a smaller increase, but I think the whole point of having a conversation about the ballot is that it would be more equitable, and I'm willing to wait. And I think that based on the numbers, we will be okay for this fiscal year. We will continue to provide 24/7 coverage. And I think that the ongoing conversation about policing in our city will need to continue to happen either way. But I don't think that I'm able to support an increase of this amount at this time.
Any other deliberation? Counselor Martin?
Has that been a part of conversation in the past of different amounts of this, increasing this? Did it go, this might have been before my time, or maybe I'm just misremembering, but did we consider different options of amount increase besides just straight doubling?
So I could offer just one piece of history. The last year, 14 months ago, when the increase was made to 566, staff also proposed 750 at that time, and council, I think had a split vote about which level to adopt. So that's another amount that has been discussed.
Counselor Colling?
I think if I remember correctly too, when you came to us before budgeting this year, you had a public safety fee of like $20 or something.
Thank you, Councilor Clay. Yes, prior looking at how to address the problem without any budget cuts, I proposed a $12.
Counselor Martin?
And for clarity as well, homeowners are paying this fee? Property owners?
It's whoever
Or-
pays the utility bill.
Oh, this is the, okay, thank you. Yeah.
Of course.
So all dwellings pay
Yes.
if they receive water.
Okay.
My deliberation is that, were I to get a chance to vote with 5 people here, it's highly unlikely. But I would not support this motion because, I support the amount of the motion, but I would want to see a, language that indicates that this is a temporary solution until at such time that a levy passes. So for that reason, I would vote for $10.50, but without that language, I would not be able to vote for. Councilor Collet?
Is there opportunity, since this is a written ordinance, there's probably not opportunity to amend the motion that I have made to make it a temporary fee increase, because that means we'd have to change the ordinance. So you'd have to, if we were to do that, you'd have to come back to us at another meeting.
Actually, you read the ordinance in full. So, there's no barrier to amending it procedurally.
If I may ask, Mayor, I'm for that too, and I think I stated I see this as a temporary solution till we get to a permanent solution for this problem. I don't know how necessarily I would word that. Would we put a specific date on it? Would we put? Are you seeing it as temporary until that property tax revenue actually comes to fruition, or after?
I would say until, until there's any sorts of funding. Because I do think eroding the ending fund balance is not in our best interest, and so I wouldn't wait, even though I appreciate Councilor Perry Miller's comments. It wouldn't erode $1 million. We would lose $40,000 in interest, for example. But it would, I think it would erode enough where I think we want to turn around and head in another direction with our fund balance. So, so to your point, I personally, if the question is, what would I support? I would support a motion that said, $10.50 until such time that a new source of funding was provided for, by a levy. If it doesn't pass, then the council at the time will have to consider how to proceed.
Can I ask a question? Would others support an amended motion if this fee increase was temporary? Because I'm not going to go through the trouble of figuring out how to word this if it's not going to pass.
Question before I answer your question.
Sure.
With this being attached to the water bill, if this were to go through and someone were to have their the fee doubled, and it put them over the edge and they could not pay it, their water would be cut off, correct? Or
That is correct.
yes. And in that instance, and this might be a way too big of a question to answer right now, but what happens then? Because I would definitely feel concerned for we're living in hard times where everything is so expensive, and to lose water would be very unfortunate. I don't know what percentage of our community off the top of my head that would or could affect, but that seems like a really big consequence, and I don't know, expressing concern.
Councilor Gregor?
To answer Councilor Coley's question, I would not vote yes on that, even with the timeline listed. I would be more inclined to a smaller increase. I think to me feels better. I think I really hear what Councilor Martin's saying, but I think likely people will still pay their water bill, but will struggle in other areas. And I know this doesn't seem like much. I mean,
$5 a month, but just as a household, when you are vulnerable, that's gonna come from somewhere, whether or not they are able to pay that bill, or it's something else that they're struggling with. So I would say, to answer your question, I'd still be a no, but I would be inclined to the 725 or what was mentioned earlier, but that was also before my time and y'all already voted on that, so.
Well, we're still deliberating. I just want to say that the cost of our police department has increased since that proposal of $7, and we approved $566. But to get to some kind of slowing down, looks like we're not going to stop the hemorrhage, but we might be able to slow down the bleeding if everybody's willing to consider something like $8 until fiscal year 2027 ends, 26, 27. So that'll be next June, and then 1050 after that, and give people a real good run at preparing for that kind of increase. Is that a motion that we could consider? Council Coley, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'd absolutely consider that. I don't like the idea of raising fees at all. I don't like the idea of raising this fee to $10.50. I totally understand that it will affect vulnerable people the most. At the end of the day, we have to make a tough decision. We have to be responsible to our ending fund balance. So if it's $8 that folks are comfortable with, let's do $8, but we need to do something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would ask us all to consider taking it to the 1050 at some point in time, to build that into this motion, and let people at least have a run at this. Would anybody not support that?
Did you mean 1050?
No, I meant $8
Oh,
now
okay.
and then 1050 at a specified
I
time
gotcha.
within the motion. Yeah, want to give it a shot?
Sure.
So it's going to be a mouthful.
Yes. Do I need to read and this is an amendment to my motion, correct?
Yeah, why don't you just go ahead and make a motion to amend?
Okay, I make a
And
motion, I
that
make a
would be-
motion to amend that we increase the public safety surcharge to $8 effective September 19th, 2026. And to 1015 or 1050, sorry. A year from now, with both of those fees ending
Can you make that effective July 1 for?
July 1, the 1050, yeah, fiscal year, July 1 of fiscal year 27, 28, with both fees being temporary, ending on fiscal year 28, 29, July 1.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to increase the public safety surcharge to $8 effective September 19th, 2026, with an additional increase to 1050 effective July 1st, 2027, and with it to be temporary until fiscal year July 1, 2028, 29.
28, 29, yeah.
Yeah. Any discussion?
I don't think I can support, sorry, counselor, just because we would be asking people to approve a levy in May, and then their already increased public safety surcharge would be increasing to 1050 a couple months after that, regardless of how the vote turned out. And then regardless of how the vote turned out, it would then be done in, what did you say, 2029?
28, 29, which is when the revenue from a levy passed in May of next year would come in, correct?
Correct. So it'd be temporary until July 1 of 2020. and that revenue wouldn't actually come in at that time, but it would
Be budgeted
fully
for it.
address that budget year.
I just want to say, thank you all for your patience and as we try to work through this, everybody's doing a great job.
Okay, funny.
Yep, go ahead.
Is that an automatic, is the way that this, or does this, the way that that works legally is that 1050 is happening then based on this motion right now, that won't be readdressed?
It can be.
Is that how we're, if we voted yes and approved it with the wording that we just used?
If we voted yes and did nothing at a future date, then yes, that would happen on July 1st of 27, 28. If a month before that, something changed, we could
Okay,
make that fee increase not happen.
Similar to what Phoenix did.
okay.
Phoenix did an incremental change. And in fact, there's a new council could on all of this. So.
And we can get a reminder from staff that that's coming up if we want to readdress it.
Absolutely.
Put it in your calendar.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion? I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Counselor Clay,
Yes.
Counselor Medina,
Yeah.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Perry Miller.
No.
Passes 4-1.
So back to our original motion. If there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Counselor Clay,
Yes.
Counselor Medina,
Yeah.
Counselor Greider,
Yes.
Counselor Martin,
Yes.
Counselor Perry Miller.
No.
Passes 4-1.
Okay. So it's 9:52. We have 8 minutes before we have to shut off the lights. What I would expect, we'll see item number 8A on the next agenda,
Certain.
unless anybody wants to throw a motion on the table right now. Okay. Commission and committee reports. We're gonna skip that tonight. We'll go to other business and future agenda. Want to do a quick look ahead, staff?
Yes, if I can get there. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. This will give me also an opportunity to apologize to council and to all the folks that were here tonight that we weren't ready for the number of folks who attended.
I have to say, thank you so much for giving that a shot. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
thank you.
I went to the wrong document. Look ahead. You can get around without a mouse. It's just kind of tricky. I think we should have a tour meeting on August 19th to return to the topics that we were talking about tonight. Both the Gateway project and the project priority question that the mayor raised. I would also I think, bring back at the regular meeting, the discussion about the Gangness and Pier project design. We would have the Faith Circle contract award, and I would like to check with you all about League of Oregon Cities legislative priorities. And if staff is ready, I might propose some changes to the Economic Development Commission ordinance. The key thing coming up in September, or key things coming up in September, would be staff would like to come back and revisit the discussion about Highway 99 annexation. We should have a land use appeal regarding the Camelot sign, and also a public hearing regarding closeout of the CDBG project, the Talent Community Resource Center. That's a requirement of our grant.
Greg, any questions or comments, Councilor Greider?
Actually, I might be for future agenda items.
Okay. Go ahead.
We received an email from Rogue Climate on July 6th, and it was about the Climate Resilience Superfund bill. I, without causing a quorum and replying on the email, wanted to see if anyone had connected on that or responded to them, and if not, if it was okay that I do, or we could put that on a future agenda. I wasn't exactly clear from the email if they were asking for a full council sign on or individuals to sign on, so if I can look into that further and then.
Here, we have consent of the council to represent us in that discussion. Yeah,
Definitely.
and that's withholding any decisions. Yeah, so you'll bring us
What their
conversation. Yeah, okay? Anything else? I just want to mention, while we're all in the room, that one of the things I'd hoped for when Alex joined our team was the fact that he had been previously employed by the governor's office, that he would have developed relationships around the state, and they'd be able to leverage those relationships on behalf of the city of Talent. And in my dealings with the city manager's office and just, you know, some of the things that come up as questions that we have or problems that we need to solve, I've seen Alex often reach out to colleagues out around the state to get answers to the questions, and like that's a superpower we've not had in our staff before, and I personally am seeing it move initiatives for us and move opportunity for us in a way that I haven't seen before, and I've been around for a long time, and I just you know, we get a lot of criticism in our roles, and every once in a while it's nice to hear. I personally am observing one of the great opportunities that I think Alex brings to our team, and that is your relationships that you've developed over the years with colleagues around the state and how they can help us, and I've seen that happen. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And with that, I don't think there's anything else, so we will, we have to adjourn into an executive session. I forgot.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang.
It'll be brief. It'll be brief.
So at this time, we're gonna adjourn into executive session. The council will meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602 H to consult with counsel concerning legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation and litigation likely to be filed. Thank you, Rick, for your great performance tonight on the hearing. Really appreciated your support, and the script was great.
Thank you to staff for scrambling and trying to figure out how to fit all the people in here in technology. It sucks when technology doesn't work.
We will be
Karen,
better prepared next
You're
time.
sure winning friends out there. I'm hearing a lot of really great stuff about you. I just want to say,
I always have.
yeah.
If you leave that on, then, because I'm gonna come over there with some
In here.
gun stuff.
So.
I mean, we're gonna let it here and then, yeah, into the breakout room.
We could have.
You saw Alex, the media member wants to join the executive session.
I did not see that.
So it looks like somebody from the media is asking to
There's a
be.
member from, their name is labeled Eugene Registered Guard staff as member of the media of Eugene Registered Guard pursuant to ORS. To consult with council concerning advice.
Yeah.
I request media access to the executive session.
Yep. So let me read the executive session thing.
Is it possible, can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
Is it possible to require them to turn on their camera or verify that they are
Yeah, what's
a
the
human? I'm not saying I don't believe that, whoever you are, but I just, in the days of AI and
Is there a rule about that, Dave?
It's not a clear rule, but we have the right to ask the person to identify themselves to verify that they actually are a member of the media. And provide some evidence of that fact.
All right, there, a friend from Eugene, can you provide some evidence to that fact?
I need to ask them to mute.
I know I had a script in here for.
the executive session. So how are the new counselors doing with these ladies? You guys hanging in okay? You have to be to work at 5 a.m. or anything?
They're saying that its computer does not have a mic, so I will ask them to start their video.
Apologies, my computer does not have a mic. Can you start your video?
Yeah,
We're also, are we supposed to be joining a breakout room? So we're still in an open Zoom right now.
yes, I'll just wait until we figure out this and then I'll be asking you to join a breakout room. So, registered guard staff, we're asking you to turn on your video if you do not have a mic.
So while that's happening, I'm gonna ask the city attorney if they're unable to identify themselves. Do we shut them off?
I mean, just to like state this, I mean, we have no way to verify that someone who, and again, I'm not saying I don't believe whoever this is, but their name is Eugene Register Guard Staff. Anyone in the world could make a Zoom account. It says that.
Yeah,
And could have notified us ahead of time.
yeah.
and
So,
didn't.
so again, my simple question is if he's not able to do this, can we just disconnect him?
Yes,
Violate.
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay. So I'm on a desktop workout. Thank you,
Thank you,
understood.
understood.
Yeah, all right, go ahead and disconnect. And friend from Eugene, we like media, we appreciate the work that you do. Please notify us in advance and we'll make sure that we can accommodate you next time. Also, can we maintain this chat for the record?
Yeah, because it has to be entered into the minutes.
Notified in advance.
I think that's
Notified
it.
in advance doesn't apply if you don't have a mic or a video, unfortunately.
I think he's this person is acknowledging that request.
Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Are we supposed to click join?
Yes, you've been invited to a breakout.
Medina's already there. Get going. Aaron's got to be in court at 5 a.m.
Can I ask a quick question? So like if that was truly media, and I'm sure it was, they can request this recording easily, right? It's an executive session. And they're
He
media.
could get it, yes.
Yeah, so there's nothing prohibiting them, but even if they let us know in advance and they don't have a camera and they.
Aaron, can you hear us okay?
Frankly, even if they did have a camera, because people do stuff in their homes in front of a camera.
yeah, I mean,
And then their whole family is behind.
I
them.
don't think Aaron can hear us.
That's
Alex.
okay.
I mean, obviously, if they really wanted to, they could have been like, let me join on via my phone or something. I mean.
But even then, being part of an executive session
on
virtually.
I think the main